This is Fulcrum, a Star Wars podcast. Your way of tapping into the Force from a galaxy far, far away. Hello there.
Hello, what have we here? Here's where the fun begins.
Count me in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Fulcrum, a Star Wars podcast. Today is a new dawn. We begin our Star Wars Rebels rewatch, fresh off of the conclusion of The Acolyte. We wanted to keep the ball rolling with Star Wars TV, and what better than our favorite Star Wars cartoon ever. I love Rebels. I love Rebels with all my heart, and today we are kicking it off with Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2, titled Spark of Rebellion. It was written by Greg Weisman, directed by Dave Filoni, Stephen G. Lee, and Stuart Lee, and originally aired on September 26th, 2014. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. And how are you feeling now that we are officially diving in to our next rewatch podcast?
It's nice. It's very comforting. This is only 2 episodes in, and it was hard not to go to the third. I'm gonna have to learn restraint, not to just binge through.
These
like
are easy
normally.
these are breezy, man. You could just you can just go, man. I love Rebels. I very recently rewatched it. For the first time in years, I recently rewatched it. And when I did, I was like, our priority for Fulcrum at some point should be a Rebels rewatch. I didn't know we would do it this soon, but I'm glad we are. I think I finished my rewatch literally less than a month ago, maybe a month ago. So I'm going back to back with it. And I'm very happy to be doing so. This is one of my absolute favorites of all time. We are going to do it in a similar format that we did The Acolyte. I've got scene by scene breakdowns. We've got all our favorites. We've got favorite scene, favorite performance, favorite character, favorite line. And since we are covering 2 episodes at a time, typically at the very end we will do favorite episode of the 2 typically on the table. And then we are also going to be doing a nice little segment where we are going to be introducing Star Wars trivia. In between episodes 1 and 2, one of us will ask the other a question, and at the end, the same thing will happen again, but vice versa. So I'm very, very excited to dig into it. If you are ready, we can begin the breakdown for Star Wars Rebels Episode 1.
Oh, I'm ready. It feels right. There's no other show that really makes sense.
This was the place to go. This was the place to go. So we open on a Star Destroyer flying through space, the classic Star Wars opening with the long stride of the ship flying overhead. And within, Darth Vader commands the Grand Inquisitor that he must find and eradicate the children of the Force, or sway them and train them to become like him. They must not become Jedi. The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. And the Grand Inquisitor says that it will be done as we see those terrible yellow eyes. And quite a way to set the tone. Quite a way to set the tone for the show we are about to get into. Nice establishment of other Force users, you know? Because Inquisitors were never... I mean, obviously prior to this, in canon, they'd never been in anything. This was the first time we see Inquisitors. And we know those Sithy yellow eyes, man. And when you see them for the first time, you're like, well, fuck. Okay, let's get it then.
Yeah, that's the bad guy. That's it's made pretty clear in Star Wars, and I love the look of him too. It's a
great character design, dude. I love the Powans. I love. You know, there was a lot of controversy surrounding, you know, the translation to live action for him and Obi-Wan Kenobi, given what we see of them in Revenge of the Sith. I think it all works really well together. I think the continuity of the visual language stands, but I don't think there's a better looking Powan than the way the Grand Inquisitor is designed in Rebels. And I love a lot of Rebels character design, so I'm excited to dig into it a little further. But we fade to Lothal, where Ezra Bridger stands atop a tower and looks at his home. A Star Destroyer descends the atmosphere and flies overhead. Within the city, we watch as Imperials bully a local vendor who refuses to provide identification, calling out the Imperials for ruining Lothal like they did the rest of the galaxy. Real one. Fuck yeah, buddy.
Oh, the Empire slander is not they don't hide it here. I mean, it's
No, they don't fuck with that. They're like, you know, you fucks ruined this place, and they're like, fair enough, treason it is. They go ahead and charge him with treason on the spot, which is, you know, an escalation to be sure. And you know, he's like, you can't do that. He's like, oh, who's gonna stop us in there? What are you gonna do? Who's gonna stop us? And and these Imperials, we actually will stick with them quite a bit throughout the first couple seasons. They never get names, not expressly. They're like LRC-01 and LRC-02 or something like that. Like, and they are the Imperial bullies aside from Callus on Lothal, which is going to be fun to kind of follow their nothing storyline, but just kind of see them over and over.
Maybe that's why they have those names. Is just how nothing they are. They are just there to.
They are the Empire. They are the Empire, and I think that's a good choice. But Ezra approaches and runs a little con, asking for one of the Yogan fruits, and they're like, "Get the fuck out of here, you Loth rat!" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I don't want any trouble." And he nicks one of their comms. And when he walks away, he calls through that there has been a code red. They must go to the town square, and the Imperials are immediately forced to abandon their mistreatment of the local vendor. Ezra takes his payment in kind. 5 Yogans. A kid's got to eat, he says. Wonderful introduction to Ezra. An incredible way to set the tone for the character we're about to fall in love with. You know, he's got good intentions. He's got a little bit of that scoundrel thing going on. He's got a little bit of the, you know, he's Aladdin is what he reminds me a lot of. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you'll recall the opening of that movie where he's walking through the streets and he steals something, and you know, he's just, kid's got to eat.
Okay, yeah. No, it was a line potential. There's some stronger ones that come later on, but it was just the first one that I took down. It was just a very nice intro and a perfect way to get you to know who he is. You know, he's not the goody kid that is all perfect and shiny and whatever.
He's a survivor, baby. He's got to eat. You know, I love the shot of him. This was a couple seconds ago, but of him looking out over Lothal. You know, and knowing that tower ends up becoming where like Sabine Wren stays and stuff. Like all of that is. I love the continuity here. You know, I don't feel particularly strongly about Ahsoka one way or another, but seeing the way those characters honor each other's legacy is pretty cool, and I like that a lot. And man, I will say this rewatch that I recently did of Rebels, I like Ezra a lot more than I ever have, and I'm comfortable with that. But he climbs out of the area very deftly. Jumping, swinging. You're like, okay, this kid's got something special about him. And even this local vendor takes notice. Who is that kid? And he watches over the Imperials as they tend to a cargo transport. But as he watches, he senses something, though he cannot say what, and spies a man in an alley. That man too looks back in kind. Sorry if you can hear my dogs. They're right there this time. I'm recording in a new spot, so they're probably going to be heard much more clearly if they bark and stuff. Apologies. But he watches as the man sends a signal to his friends, a Lasat and a Mandalorian. They move into position, and the Mandalorian sets a charge on one of the Imperial speeders. When it explodes, the Imperials mount up, saying they must protect the cargo at all costs. And this catches Ezra's attention. At all costs. I like the sound of that. So he goes ahead and desires to take a crate for himself. The man he saw in the alley cuts off the Imperials and begins a firefight, and they finish the crew quickly when Ezra swings in, steals the speeder with a couple crates in tow. And they follow in kind with their crates as well, and it's the Mandalorian who descends upon Ezra first. Separating and taking control of one of the crates, she warns him that if the big guy catches him, he'll end him. And the chase continues as shots are fired on all sides, none at Ezra from Kanan, and he swerves through the townsfolk and onto the speedway, and Ezra jumps lanes to get away as 2 Imperial speeders continue to follow. And they make quick work of the 2, the Lasat ending one with his weapon, and the human taunting the other and tossing him a detonator. This is my favorite scene of episode 1. I loved the way it sets the tone for the Rebels crew, Ezra's dynamic with them, just everybody meeting each other for the first time, essentially, unofficially. And it's very fun to watch. I love whenever Ezra, locks in, whenever he's swerving through the through the people, and Kanan being like, who the fuck is this kid? And him being like, who are these guys? I love the stupid little stuff like that. It's fun.
Building up the legend of both of them, like both sides. Kanan, it's just they're both so enthralled by each other. It's like, oh my God, what's going on here? This, and Ezra, you don't know him or before, but it's clear that it's like he doesn't buy into this stuff, and it's just like he's there to survive and just for money and get what he can and get out. But it's, I guess now on rewatch, there's a lot bigger. This is a family, and then so it is just. I went a little bit later of their official meeting with my scene, but I didn't think about like this, all of the unofficial, like this is the true setup.
The chaos. This is the first impression, like Ezra steals from them and on the run proves himself to be of note, like I love the whole sequence. I love the way that he tries to escape, but ultimately, he's fucking with Kanan, and when Ezra carries on, Kanan tells Zeb to fall back, leaving his speeder's cargo with him, and Kanan quickly cuts off Ezra as they come face to face for the first time. Their conversation is cut short by an incoming TIE fighter, which destroys Kanan's speeder as Ezra gets away. And Kanan calls into his comm that he needs a lift as the TIE continues to chase Ezra. He is thrown from his speeder as the TIE lands a shot and turns to continue its bombardment. Luckily, the TIE is cut off when it is destroyed by the Ghost. First appearance of the Ghost. Everybody clap. I fucking love the Ghost. Probably, potentially, my favorite ship in all of Star Wars. Definitely my favorite crew. I can say that.
It's tough to beat the Falcon. It's
the Falcon's strong.
It's just pretty iconic. It just carries through. But at least what it comes with, the crew that comes along with it. If it's the crew and the ship, that
it's the Ghost. It's the Ghost. Like it's just gotta be. But the Ghost goes ahead and destroys that TIE, and Kanan calls from the fucking ramp, the boarding ramp, that's what it's called, for Ezra to go ahead and hop on, and Ezra goes ahead and recovers his crate, and Kanan's like, what are you doing? Leave that, you will die. But somehow he manages to jump on board the ship with the crate in hand, immediately proving himself to Kanan that there is something special about the kid. And they make a swift getaway with 4 TIEs in tow. They open the crate to find blasters on board, and Ezra immediately butts heads with Zeb, as we know him to do, and Kanan heads to the cockpit, where we meet Hera for the first time, my favorite character of the episode, and my favorite character of the series.
She kind of dominated this episode, performance and character-wise for me. It was just, the introductions were nice for everyone, but she was just, from the jump, boom. She's the one holding it down, it, and she's the one who gives like some pretty hard hitting lines this episode.
Oh yeah,
too. So
she delivers my line much later. I think the end of the episode, but
I think it is.
Yeah. There's a like what I love about performances in TV shows at the beginning when they're not like prestige dramas. Usually, prestige dramas have a certain uniformity to their performances, a maintenance there, but when it comes to sitcoms and comedies and animated series and stuff like this, the first episodes always have an exaggeration of the character, and then they settle in, and they become more what you know them to be. I love in the first episodes how extreme and over the top everybody is in their personality, so that you immediately get a feel for the strongest characteristics they possess. I love the playfulness Hera has in this moment, where she greets Kanan really warmly, calling him love and stuff, and she's like, how did this happen? It was supposed to be a routine op, and she laughs whenever Hera is like, he must be talented, to escape you, give you a hard time. How'd that happen? Spill. And Kanan's like, I don't want spill. I love the little
like,
line.
Are you busy?
Like,
you should be fighting these TIE fighters. He's like, no. She's like, I got this. She's like,
I'm good. You
this
know,
is
like
nothing.
this is
me.
Tuesday. You know, yeah. I love the way she's just whipping through. She flips the ship, throws Kanan into his seat. He's like, if I knew better, I'd say you did that on purpose. And she's like, well, yeah, I fucking did.
Yeah, I did. For sure. And if you knew any better, this wouldn't have happened in the first place. You know, she's like sunning him. I mean, Kanan.
Oh, yeah.
He's the like they are in like exaggerating his cockiness. Like he's pretty cocky
yeah.
these first two episodes, and a lot more. I guess I don't know. Maybe he just gets humbled. Maybe Ezra starts to humble him a little bit more. But
I think he takes on responsibility after a certain point. You know, like there's and I think Ezra ends up giving him direct responsibility over somebody. I do think he feels responsible for the crew. I do think he feels like he needs to protect them. But I think he feels much more indirectly responsible for their well-being. When it comes to the master-apprentice relationship, it becomes like he's got to grow the fuck up fast. You know,
that's true.
He's never, and he already did have to, Order 66 happens and he goes off on his own and he does, and that's what this book is about. A New Dawn is Kanan's rise after Order 66, meeting Hera, meeting the Rebels crew, which is, I strongly recommend that one. I've only read a portion of the beginning and I need to pick it back up, but super strong book. But yeah, there's another leap forward for him in adulthood when he meets Ezra, and I really, really appreciate that. But in the whole, Ezra and Zeb continue to butt heads, and Ezra calls him Stinky, and Zeb throws him in a compartment. And Hera in the cockpit argues to Kanan that maybe they keep him on, but Kanan realizes that Ezra has disappeared, and he calls to Zeb to tell him what's going on, and it is then that Zeb realizes he's made his way into the ventilation system. Hera taunts that he is quite creative, like someone she used to know. Giving Kanan a little shit. They used to be a little like that. You take yourself a little too seriously these days. But Ezra falls through to the gunner seat where he sees space for the first time, to his awe, and quick terror when TIEs shoot at him. I'm in space, and I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
My performance of the first episode is gonna have to be the voice actor for Ezra. It's
Taylor Gray. Okay.
Yeah, Taylor Gray. Gray.
Okay. First time
I love him. I love his voice, and he does a lot of impressive work over the course of the series. I thought that he doesn't quite have to reach depths he does later on in the season, later on in the show or anything, but there is the establishment of that character I felt was like probably the most important of any establishment of the characters in the show. And I feel like he does an incredible job. So I went Taylor Gray for the performance. But yeah, Kanan hops into the other gunner seat and shoots at the TIEs when Sabine pulls Ezra from his seat to take the guns there. He is immediately taken by her beauty. The hair flowing, the helmet removal, almost slow-mo. But he tries to flirt. He's like, hey, I'm Ezra, what's your name? And Sabine ends one of the TIEs quickly as Zeb pulls him from his chair and tries to, I like Zeb's like semi-protectiveness over him. He's being a bully, but he is ultimately trying to keep him safe. It's kind of Zeb's whole thing. But Sabine ends one of the TIEs. They open a hole and they jump to light speed. And back on Lothal, the Imperials impose martial law. LRC-01 reports to ISB agent Callus that they were struck by a skilled team, which we learn is not the first occurrence on this planet from this group. And Callus suspects the spark of rebellion. He stands ready to end it before it ignites a fire. Nice to meet Callus this way, Another character that, upon my rewatch, I love even more than I'd previously loved.
Oh yeah, to know where he's going, to know the ship,
oh, dude.
The ship between him and Zeb. They're
the Cal Zeb. Yeah,
they're definitely together, 100%, no question about it. At the end, end of it all. So yeah, I mean he sucks for now. We'll have to deal with the bad side of Callus for a little bit, but it's nice to know in the back of my head that eventually we'll make it through. We will see the other side with Callus.
Yeah, and I do like that he is a little bit of just a cut and paste Imperial for now. You know, there's nothing particularly special about him.
Mm-hmm.
Not for a couple episodes yet. We do eventually explore Callus a little more, and it becomes clear that he is pretty interesting. But right now he's just some guy. But back on the Ghost, Ezra demands to be taken back to Lothal, and they're like, "Yeah, that was the plan. We're going to return. Our signal will be scrambled, so our signature will be scrambled. We won't have anything to worry about. But we can't take you back to the city. We've got other plans." And they arrive back on Lothal at a place called Tarkin Town, as it's referred to by the locals, named for Grand Moff Tarkin, who upended all of these people from their homeland and exiled them, essentially. But they each carry a crate to the camp, and Ezra opines that he's lived on Lothal his whole life and never heard of this place. And elsewhere, Kanan and Hera hand their newly retrieved blasters off to Vizago. Hera is happy they took a bite out of the Empire. That's all that matters to her, but Vizago is a true businessman. The trade is all that matters, and he proposes a new trade. The rest of the payment for a piece of information they've been desperately after. The Wookiees. And back in Target Town, Ezra, Zeb, and Sabine open their crates to reveal free food, and Zeb calls out, "Free grub, everybody, come and get it." And I was close to picking this for my favorite scene as well. This is just one of the more affecting moments. And the locals are intensely grateful. Ezra experiences for the first time the benefits of helping those in need, even when he didn't do anything. And he feels a certain pang of guilt for not having taken part in this. And I appreciate that little character moment where he's like, I didn't do anything, you know?
They're always a little subtle and it's quick, but I do like that they just have those moments where it's just very clear slow little pebbles right now, little itty bitty crumbs, but he's going in that direction, and it's nice to see his kind of his own rebellion sort of wake up, and the little moments of him in space for the first time, but then it's I'm gonna die, and then it's
kind of a fun subversion of what we typically see whenever a character goes to space, like, you know, Rey being like, I never thought there was so much green in the whole galaxy, or Omega's eyes filling up with the light of hyperspace and stuff like that. Like, typically when we see space for the first time with a character, it's nothing but awe. And I love that this kind of introduces the idea that we are dealing with a chaotic group in a chaotic situation, and this is what it's going to be for him. And I love that setup. But let's see. Okay, here we go. Later on, Ezra sits over the town and senses something in the Ghost. He enters and climbs to Kanan's chamber, where he finds a holocron hidden in a compartment. He's like, yeah, this is cool, I'll keep that. Must be worth something. And then he pulls the drawer further to find a lightsaber. He does not know it's a lightsaber yet. He just ignites it, and he's like, whoa, that's awesome. He loves its blue glow. He swings it a little bit, and the door opens to reveal Kanan. And Ezra says, you're not going to believe this, but it's like it wanted me to take it. And Kanan's like, yeah, you're right. I don't believe you. Now give it. And he goes ahead, hands it over, and he keeps the holocron, which was part of the plan. Kanan knew he would, and Hera looks at him as Kanan says, now we'll see. And in the common area of the ship, Sabine and Ezra talk about their little crew. In some ways, they're a family, and all of their families have been in some way affected by the Empire. And Zeb enters to tell them they're needed in the common room, and on her way out, Sabine tells him her name officially, introduces herself. Sabine. My name's Sabine. And Chopper is to keep an eye on Ezra, which he quickly fails at. But in the common room, they plot to save enslaved Wookiees. Nearby, a thud is heard, and Ezra falls out of a compartment. He was listening in. And Zeb grows angry, but it doesn't matter. Hera says she's going to keep an eye on him and takes him to the cockpit. They've got plans, and he's heard too much. We don't have time. We got to go. And Ezra says he's all for sticking it to the Empire, but this is too much. We could die. Who would do something like that? And Hera says, we do.
Boom.
And I was like, bars.
A short line from Hera, but the second potential. She drops a bar at the end, so it's kind of tough not to go with that one. But this one was really strong. It gets Ezra to kind of like like
See.
sit back and be like, oh, he was like, oh,
I'm dealing with some
Okay.
real motherfuckers right here, you know, like,
Yeah.
and he's still skeptical, you know, he doesn't have faith in people, you know, and I think that's what's really cool is that these first 2 episodes serve to kind of restore his faith a little bit. And, I really, really appreciate that. There's a cynicism he possesses far too young, you know, and it makes sense, you know, he's grown up in the Empire. His parents were killed by the Empire. His parents were captured. He doesn't know they're dead yet, but his parents were captured by the Empire. He has very little reason to believe in anything, and that's why I think it's really cool that he meets this group and they give him a reason to believe again, and I think that's really cool. But they arrive at an Imperial transport. And Hera uses the cover that they have a Wookiee prisoner ready for delivery. She was given instruction by Tarkin himself. They can take it up with him if they don't want to let them board. And they're like, all right, fine, fucking dock, it's fine. And they board the shuttle and say that Zeb is a rare, hairless Wookiee, which they don't buy. But it doesn't matter because Zeb smashes their bucket heads together. There's just something about the way their helmets feel against my fists. I love it. And also, this is a fun little Easter egg of sorts, referring to Zeb as a hairless Wookiee. And Ralph McQuarrie's initial concept art for the Wookiees, they looked like Zeb. They looked like Lasats.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
I guess in Star Wars, if there's ever anything that just they never went with, it's like, well, might as well be like, this is a new species on
This
a
is
different
just a different
planet.
species.
Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And
No, so like this was originally the concept art for. I don't think it was officially conceptualized as Chewbacca yet. It might have been, but it was like the Wookiee species.
Wow.
That was the image
Hairless.
of them.
Man, I wonder if they wanted him to actually talk or not. Because, like, perfect that, like, you said, I forget what exactly we were recording, but, like, whenever you're reading Star Wars books, a Jedi Wookiee, like, you hear him in English and whatever. It's not
Right.
like in.
Tree
You
look.
actually hear their thoughts, and they're normal like everyone else or whatever. It's just 1-to-1. And with Zeb, it's just like that. It's like you have the Wookiee character, the big muscle and whatever, but you also can just hear him.
You have an
and-
opportunity to give him a little bit more, and that's why I love my Wookiees. You know I do. I wish there was a way we could get them a little bit more. I would love that. Yeah, no, and that's the opportunity Zeb kind of provides. But I always loved that little detail. Have you ever seen a rare hairless Wookiee before? Because that is
his like his attempt
Yeah.
at doing it, and didn't give him much to go off of. That's for sure. Sabine points out, but
yeah. Sabine's like, I told you they wouldn't buy it. And Sabine's like, you actually didn't give them a chance. You fucking knocked them out. But they make their move, but their comms are quickly jammed. Ezra senses that something is coming, and a Star Destroyer immediately arrives from hyperspace. The whole thing was a setup, and Hera tells Ezra to go warn them, which he initially refuses, but she tells him that if all he does is fight for his own life, then his life is worth nothing, the line of the episode. Her family needs him. They need him now.
God,
The ghost is towed on board, and the episode ends.
goddamn Hera. Yeah, you're at least the one. I mean, I knew. I already knew I liked Ezra. I already knew I liked Kanan. Those were kind of my faves on my last watch. So I'm trying to give Hera, Zeb, and even Chop. I'm trying to give them all, and Sabine some.
Yeah.
Sabine, I did like. I don't know. Mandalorians are always cool to me, and her
They're always
storyline is
cool.
really cool. So I do like her. So, but Hera, I know she's your favorite, so I'm giving her a chance, and she shined.
Man, I don't. I can't remember exactly why Hera was the one I attached to so hard the first time I watched this. Like, there was like no doubt in my mind that she was my favorite character, and I think there's a degree to her where she's the most true rebel of the crew. You know, they all have their different rebellions. They all have their own reason they're fighting and stuff. But Hera's reason for fighting is anti-imperialism. You know, it's like everybody needs our help. We need to take down the Empire, you know, like and it becomes clear a little bit towards the end of the season when they join up with the rest of, you know, a little bit of a bigger cell, you know. And it becomes a little bit more clear that she is actually fighting a rebellion while the rest of them are just kind of trying to get by and help a little bit along the way. And the way they all grow, it's cool to see that Hera's there. She's always been there. And I think that's why ultimately she's my favorite. But yeah, that line, just a perfect encompassing thesis for the show at large, and a perfect capturing of her character. You know, if all you do is fight for yourself, then your life is worth nothing.
Damn Hera. Yeah, instantly went in the quotes notes as well. It was not just one to take down for the episode, but for good.
Right.
This one, yeah, was a bar. So, but yeah, that was a good first episode. I guess
great first episode.
Who's going first on the good old trivia?
I'm happy to go ahead and toss my question out. We talked a little bit prior. So the way this is going to work is we are both going to have a question for the other every week. Varying in degrees of difficulty. Part of the goal is to learn a little something. So I will often try my best to dupe you, to be honest.
Yes.
Because part of it is that I want to learn things as well. But I am starting with a little bit more of a softball, not particularly easy, but not particularly difficult. It doesn't require you to know the technical aspects of anything. My question for you, we know that the Purrgil become a very important aspect of this show, the space whales. We know that they appear in Ahsoka, and they transport them to Peridia. We know all of this. My question for you is, how many episodes of Rebels do the Purrgil appear in?
Ooh, shit. Okay. Well, I definitely know one. When the end, or the good old let's get thrown out of here. I wouldn't say too many, though. I'm guessing it's less than 10. 8 is my... I don't know. I feel like it's
8?
Around there. For whatever reason.
This blew my mind when I rewatched the show. They appear physically in 2 episodes.
Okay, I definitely...
They appear once. No, yeah, I can't blame you, because I thought they were a much bigger part of the show, too. They appear once, and then Ezra calls for them. They do get mentioned. There isn't... It's not... But the important thing was how many times they physically appear. You know, they get referred to a couple times.
Okay. Maybe that's what I was.
There's
really,
like depictions of them, like in art, like because Thrawn's like studying it and stuff. He's like the Purrgil or whatever the fuck, you know, like But they only appear twice.
Wow. 2 times in Ahsoka. Or in Mando. We see,
they appear in Mando. They appear in Mando once. They appear in Ahsoka in a few episodes. You know, so like they might appear in more episodes of Ahsoka than they do Rebels.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have guessed just 2. But now,
that was kind of that
makes sense now. Why
that was the fun?
Asked that, yeah.
That's why I wanted that. You know, I was like, it's a surprisingly few if you haven't watched it in a while. So yeah, the Purrgil will only be in 2 episodes, but goddamn, are they heavy hitters? A couple of my favorite episodes of the entire show. But
okay, 0 for 1,
and that
let's go
0 for 1 right now. But that's okay.
That's
That's
the point.
all right.
To learn.
That is the point indeed. But let's see. All right, the next episode begins with Hera continuing her plea. Ezra fights with himself and says he can't believe he's doing this, but Hera says that she can. And Kanan and Zeb continue on and walk straight to their trap right as Ezra warns them. They manage to narrowly escape the immediate trap while Sabine and Chopper work the control room. Sabine turns off the gravity and they have a nice floaty firefight, and Sabine places some detonators as the others continue their escape. The gravity returns and they run off, almost all of them getting to the ship. Ezra is snatched, and Zeb lets him go, telling him, "You did good, kid. You did good." And he shuts the door. On the ship, Zeb collapses, quite guilty. And that's another one of my favorite character beats, is, you know, Zeb he's a good guy, you know, but there is a choice you have to make, you know, like, this way, at least they have a chance, I suppose, to save him. You know, like he did not stand a chance of saving him in that moment. So you can get why he doesn't do, and that's what's complicated though. It's like, but should you have tried? Probably.
If it's anyone else in that situation, if it's Kanan
they probably
or,
try.
or Sabine, they probably do. But at this, I mean, they did just meet him. Like, this is very, very fresh, relationship. So like, there is that too. It's like, do I choose my family that I've been with for quite some time, or this new kid? And so it's tough. And he gets in there and he's like,
it is.
I thought he was with you guys, and it's like. Well, I mean, yeah.
Come on, Zeb.
Yeah,
Come on, Zeb.
That's okay.
Yeah,
but
no. It's I forgive him. Ultimately, that's the point I'm getting at. But on the ship, Zeb collapses guilty, and they take off. Sabine activates the charges, and the Star Destroyer's port grows alight in a beautiful explosion. I love Sabine being like, "Oh, I can't see it. Is it awesome? Is it beautiful?" And Kanan's like, "Gorgeous as always, Sabine." I love that energy, being like, "Yeah, we just fucked some people up." I love that shit.
That's kind of true. Being used to the Bad Batch and them stunning all of everything.
They kill dudes.
Boom. Yeah, we're killing motherfuckers instantly.
I
off rip.
love that. Like, obviously when it comes to the Bad Batch, it's a little more complicated. They could be their brothers. Most of them are their brothers, so it's a little bit different. At this point, there are very few clones left. They are just stormtroopers. They're just Imperials. So fucking kill them. I don't care.
Bang bang. Yeah, let's go.
I love it. But I also wanted to point out, because I didn't at the end of the first episode, this might be my favorite design across the entire saga for stormtroopers, live action or animation. I love the art style for Rebels. It catches some flack compared to Clone Wars and stuff. But one thing that I really love about it is that it's very clearly an homage to Ralph McQuarrie's concept art of the original trilogy, and I think that it really, really works. I love the way the Stormtrooper armor looks, and you'll note that whenever we see like C-3PO, I believe next week, I think that's when we see Droids in Distress, like he looks a lot more like that iconic concept art of C-3PO than he does the 3PO we know. So like, I think I love the appreciation this show has for the works of Ralph McQuarrie, and that comes through really hard in the Stormtrooper design, and absolutely love to see it. But in the cockpit, they all convene, speculating on Vizago's knowledge of the setup. Hera doesn't think he knew. She's like, I don't think we need to worry. I think he just provided information. It was sold to him. He sold it. It's fine. But she commends the kid for his service, and they notice he's not there. And Zeb's like, he grows sheepish, and, he ultimately tells them the truth after trying to deflect. The kid got grabbed. What was I going to do? And I love Hera being like, Garazeb Aurelios, going full name.
Mom mode.
It's not good when you go full
you're
name.
In trouble. This one, I don't know. It's nothing real punishment wise, but it's just kind of like team aura. I don't know, -10 or just like a team. Team chemistry -10 for a little bit. Yeah, it's but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets a proper scolding, and he tries to justify it to himself. He's like, he's just a kid. They'll go easy on him. He tries, but I don't think he can quite convince himself. And in the Star Destroyer, Ezra introduces himself to Callus as Jabba the Hutt. He's made to be used as bait for them on Lothal, and Ezra doesn't believe they'll take the bait. They won't come for him. People don't do that, he says. And stormtroopers enter and take his belongings, save for the holocron, which he pocketed. He throws it on the ground in anger and calms himself, and he unknowingly reaches out through the Force and unlocks the holocron. It activates to reveal a hologram of Obi-Wan Kenobi's message telling Jedi to not return to Coruscant on the night of Order 66. Really cool to see this in this light. To see it, actually, we do not act. This is the first time we ever see this message. Obi-Wan says he records it. Obi-Wan sends it out. In Revenge of the Sith. But I really
my
enjoy
favorite
this.
character of the episode, Obi-Wan Kenobi. No, I'm kidding. It's just he happens to be number one, just kind of all time. So it's anytime he pops up, it's nice to see the boy. But
And a really, really cool connection, again, to this book is that the prologue is a young Caleb Doom, Kanan Jarrus, at the temple getting a lesson from Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he's explaining the beacon, the signal that calls to all the Jedi, telling them they must come home, you know. It's the recall order, like, everybody back to the planet. Everybody back to the temple. We're all going to be here. And Kanan asks in class, you know, why would that ever need to happen? And Obi-Wan's like, I don't know. What do you think? And they all kind of, every youngling kind of contemplates on it. And he's like, I know, unexpected reasons. And everybody in the class laughs, and Obi-Wan's like, no, that's actually as good an answer as I could possibly give you. There's never been a recall order the entire time I've been a Jedi. You know, like, that's never happened. So, like, we don't know what it would take, but we know we have that case. And the class gets dismissed, and on Obi-Wan's way out, Caleb asks him one more question. You know, he's like, if it can be used to call everybody home, can it be used to send everyone away? And that's what he does.
Oh my god!
In that
hologram,
he
does. But wasn't it that Anakin and Palpatine they kept that order up or something like that? Like, they kept that beacon alive, telling, like, there was a fake message or something saying
Jedi to come home.
And then...
Yeah. Obi-Wan's using the same frequency to let them know they should not. And the idea that Caleb Doom gave him that idea is very cool. A nice little connection to the show. But let's see. Yeah, on the Ghost, Zeb grows angry at Hera's plan to save the kid, and Sabine agrees it's too risky, and Hera says that they need to take the responsibility. But Chopper agrees with Hera, as he is wont to do, and ultimately Kanan gets the deciding vote. Back on the Star Destroyer, Ezra taunts the stormtrooper, saying that his uncle, the Emperor, is going to be pissed when he finds out what they've done. And he breaks into a violent fake coughing fit, which prompts the trooper's entry, and he sneaks out and locks them in. Bye, guys. I love that little moment.
You know,
so he's just, dude, they're so fucking stupid. I love stormtroopers. They are so fucking dumb. And whenever it shuts and they like look at each other
Well, we feel pretty dumb right now. Yeah, no. Ezra, I liked him before. He got the double nod from me this episode. There may be one character. We'll get there. I'll have to talk it through. But he got the performance for me and character so far. I was just loving Ezra. I mean, here at Jabba the Hutt, you know, I was thinking like, oh, should I keep track of all of his aliases? You know, of what he comes through and
aliases,
all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was really. This episode was like, this is why I love Ezra like so much. He's just so playful, a kid, but.
Oh, and he's on it. You know, he's got it together. You know, he's quick on his feet. He's smart. He's got the shit on him. You know, I love. I actually forgot to mention why I went with my performance a second ago. I went with Steve Bloom as Zeb. I love whenever, like, the moment when he like talks to himself and he's like, he's a kid. They'll take it easy on him. You know, like you can hear how much he's trying to convince himself, and I think that comes through very hard in the performance of it. But yeah, and there's a few other times that I liked Steve Bloom a lot, so I wanted to give him some love here off top. That's who I went with for my character, but or my performance, not character. But Ezra finds his way to the armory where he grabs his belongings and he steals a helmet and taps into their transmissions, their comms. And he learns that the Wookiees are heading for Kessel, and he hears the report find its way to Callus that he has escaped. Callus suspects the rebels, saying, how'd they get back on board? But the trooper's like, he just did it. He did it on his own. And obviously that pisses Callus off a little bit, but Ezra climbs through the vents as he hears that the rebel vessel has actually arrived again in the lower hangar. And he's like, holy shit, they came back. You know, I love that moment again. You know, he's like, just kind of another restoration of faith moment. I love that. But he taps into the comms, posing as a trooper, and informs them that he thinks the lower hangar is a diversion. And Callus is like, maybe, but maybe not. And he splits their forces, and Ezra comments that every little bit helps. But the Ghost settles in the hangar bay, and Sabine leaves her signature tag. They run to find Ezra, but he finds them first. As he drops from the ceiling, Zeb punches him. He claims he saw the masks and swung, but Ezra doesn't buy it. How was I supposed to know? You're wearing a bucket. I love that they call them buckets. But he claims that he saw the mask and swung, but it's then that the Callus and the Imperials show up as they make their escape on the Ghost. Zeb assures Ezra makes it on board this time. Nuh-uh, you are going on first. And Callus looks down and realizes that Sabine's tag is an explosive adhesive, and it promptly blows, allowing their escape. But Ezra finds his way to the cockpit to sheepishly thank Hera, and she says it's part of the job and that they're going to get him home now. His parents must be worried sick. And Ezra responds that he doesn't have parents. And this prompts Hera to look at him quite sadly. And he tells them that they have somewhere else to be. The Wookiees are being taken to Kessel. He's like, y'all know anything about that? And Sabine's like, yeah, prisoners don't last there very long. And for Wookiees born in the forest, it's a death sentence. And Ezra says, well, then we better go save them. Let's go do this.
That was my line for the episode. And it kind of reasons why I'm choosing Ezra for this episode too, is that he was by himself, just scoundrel survivor. And that's all he thought. He thought in this episode, no way they're going to come back for me. No one does that. And then now he wouldn't want to save these Wookiees before, but now he's instantly like, oh, well, let's go save them then.
Let's do this thing, I love the multiple, like the stereotypical hero's journey where they like refuse the call to action and then they ultimately accept it. He does that a couple times in in these two episodes. In fact, he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't stick my neck out like that. Oh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But it's cool to see him slowly gain that. Like, yeah, you know what? I think I could rock with you guys. But back on the Star Destroyer, Callus learns that Ezra's stolen helmet has its transmitter on, and they'll be able to find them. But at Kessel, we see Wookiee prisoners being towed in a line. Cuffed and bound as a young child, Wookiee looks to his mom, and the Ghost descends, taking out Imperials left and right. Inside, Zeb tells Ezra to stay safe, and they run out of the ship and enter a firefight. Ezra uses the cover to cross enemy lines and finds his way to the Wookiees. He tells them he's here to help and starts removing their binds. But the Wookiees then aid in the fight, tossing some Imperials around like it's absolutely nothing, but then TIEs enter the scene, firing recklessly on the Ghost, and Chopper manages to destroy one with the guns when the transport rises with Callus on board.
Chopper kill count, I guess.
Fight
I didn't think of that.
Chopper kill count goes up a little bit.
I guess we got one TIE
here.
Fighter.
Yeah,
that's
be hard to keep track of.
It's gonna go crazy eventually, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, He does end one here, and they ultimately have to get the fuck out of there because TIEs are coming. They can't be sitting ducks. So the fight escalates, growing to a fever pitch. A child is in danger as he's running away in the opposite direction, away from a stormtrooper, and Ezra makes a choice. He runs and follows Zeb, not sticking his neck out. And when the rebels are pinned, Kanan too must make a choice. And thus, the scene of the episode. He calls for a 22 pickup. Ezra inquires what the hell that means, asking to be let in on the secret, and Kanan says, I'm about to let everyone in on the secret. Which is a fucking bar to say right before you pull out a fucking lightsaber.
Yeah. In a crazy, this is quite the secret to let everyone know. Like, this is not a small thing that he's doing here, and...
No. He knows it means they will be fucking gone after, But he stands in oncoming blaster fire. It seemingly bends to avoid him. He removes a hilt from his belt and an emitter from the other side. He connects and locks the two and ignites a lightsaber. Everyone stands in shock and awe, Ezra voicing, whoa, Wookiees being like, roar. The stormtroopers freezing. And then Callus delivers my favorite line of the episode, where he goes, All forces, focus your fire on the Jedi. Like the delivery of him being like,
yeah,
almost scared is what it sounds like. Everyone focus your fire on, and then like not believing what he's about to say and being like, on the Jedi. I love it. It's so good.
The whole moment was good. I mean, yeah, it is undeniably the scene of the episode. And you're right. Yeah, there was like a disbelief, a fear, it kind of like, holy shit, I actually get to say this as like, well. You know, kind of like, it's like,
I'm fighting a Jedi. Oh, man. You know,
yeah,
like
I mean, the only moment that I've teared up, like that got me to actually be like, oh damn, I'm like,
this gets me,
was going.
Dude. It gets me. Oh, it really does the thing. But and that's what's cool too is on the first watch it's just kind of cool, but on rewatch and knowing more about Star Wars and everything, you just know how much and how important this moment is. And the reason it really hits for me is what happens after. You know, Kanan deflects the fire as he covers their escape, and one of the Wookiees must be dragged away as they reach for their child. And Ezra sees that, and he decides he is going to take action. He runs for the kid. And I love how quickly they show how inspirational the very presence of a Jedi is. You know, like, that's what makes Ezra go, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? And I love that choice. Like, being like, it's not until Kanan pulls out the saber that he's like, holy shit, like it kind of infuses him with hope. It infuses him with purpose. It makes him realize he can do something about things. And I think that's a perfect way to depict that moment with right after the Jedi reveals himself. But above, Hera battles Ties as they continue their escape, and Zeb tells Kanan he managed to inspire the kid to do something like he would do. And Ezra chases an Imperial out onto a ledge and flips him over, sending him over the edge. And he comes face to face with Kallus as he saves the child. The ghost picks up the container of Wookiees as Kallus corners them. He comments, "A master and an apprentice. A rare find these days." And Ezra's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
Quite genuinely, I don't know what that means.
Little Mr. Incredible. Fly home,
alone.
buddy.
Yeah.
I work alone.
Yeah. Fly home. I work alone. Yeah. Kanan says, not this time.
Come on.
Another badass entrance there, wielding his saber on the outer hull of the ghost. Like, okay. And Ezra and the Wookiee child jump over the edge as Kanan deflects bolts back at Kallus, sending him over the edge to find the trooper who'd been sent over earlier. The trooper asks, "First time you've seen a Jedi, sir?" And Kanan promptly kicks him in the face into his death.
That poor dude. Yeah.
Or Kallus promptly kicks him in the face into his death.
Was hanging on for dear life for a little bit before Kallus got down there, you know.
And I love the casualness. He says, "The first time you've seen a Jedi?"
The first time that dude's seen a Jedi, you know? Like, that dude's never seen one either. But, yeah, I guess he was just a little comic relief, but...
The way he just what was funny too is I paused it to take notes, like right after the kick. So like the dude had like his head was like flung back and he was in like a motion blur. It was super fucking funny. But yeah, incredible sequence there. And on the Ghost, a child is reunited with their mother and the crew rejoices. They send the Wookiees on their way, who offer their help should they ever need it. And we learned the kid's name. His name's Kitwar, which is cute. I don't think that ever comes back around. I don't think we ever see Wookiees again in Rebels, but we know there's a little Wookiee kid named Kitwar somewhere out there. But Ezra asks if they intend to drop him off next, and Zeb plays it cool. Yeah, finally, right? You know, like he's growing attached to Ezra very quickly. He likes the kid, and Ezra is like, "Fine, shit, goddamn, man, okay, yeah, finally." But he looks quite disappointed as Kanan approaches him, and when the ship lurches, he nicks Kanan's saber. And Ezra says his goodbye to Zeb, who playfully punches him on the arm, like, "Yeah, we'll see. Not if I see you first," and punches him way too hard. And Ezra's like, "Okay, asshole."
I get a bruise
fuck.
from that.
And Zeb immediately, yeah. And Zeb feels bad. He's like, "Shit, man. Like, I don't know. I don't really have friends my mental age." You know?
Yeah, they are biologically aged very differently, but mentally, yes.
Yeah, they are siblings, you know, like that's a brother relationship there. But outside, Kanan requests the return of something that belongs to him. And Ezra goes ahead and tosses him the holocron, knowing he's going to hold on to the saber for now. And he wishes them good luck saving the galaxy, and he runs off. Hera notes that he opened it. He passed the test. And Kanan looks on in awe. And I love the way they clue us in that everybody else knows he's a Jedi. You know, that like Zeb, Sabine, they knew what a 22 pickup was. They knew, like, they were like, okay, are you sure? You know, like, all right, go ahead. And I love this moment though, that just kind of clues you into how much more close Hera and Kanan are, particularly with he did it, you know, like he passed the test. Like I just appreciate little moments like that where they give us an insight into them being close. But at the top of his tower, we see Ezra possesses a few trooper helmets, which is cool. And now he owns a saber, and he senses Kanan behind him, and he asks, "What's the Force?" And Kanan teaches him his first lesson. The Force is everywhere, surrounding and penetrating us. It binds the galaxy together, and it's strong with you, Ezra. And he offers Ezra a choice. He can keep the saber, let it become a dusty souvenir like the others, or he can come with them, with him, and be trained in the ways of the Force. He could become a Jedi. And Ezra says that he thought the Empire wiped out the Jedi, but Kanan assures him, not all of us. And Kanan leaves suddenly, and we see him in the ship listening to Kenobi's message on the hologron again, meditating on it. And we see the various members of the Ghost crew intercut with Kenobi's speech, and the pace of it is just so well edited. I love the part where he goes, you know, trust in the Force, and it's on Ezra. Do not return to the temple. That time has passed, and our future is uncertain. And it's cutting to, you know, Zeb, Sabine, Hera. We will each be challenged. Our trust, our faith, they cut to Hera, our friendship. But we must persevere, and in a time, a new hope will emerge. May the Force be with you. Always. The door opens, and Kanan's eyes open to see Ezra, returning the saber and joining him.
I wanted to ask, did Kanan physically go there? Or was this a... I guess it's... It would be like him literally projecting himself kind of there, but or if it was Ezra doesn't know, that it's like... it's... Yeah, and then it's just the show's way of it's not, kind of showing us.
That's a good question,
he's like,
you know, like, because he does...
And then he's with the holocron, right? Like, it's like a jump cut. And he could have just left and gave Ezra the choice, and...
It could just be a cut, I take it more to be that, like, he left him. He didn't want to make him feel like he was taking him, which I think is another cool parallel to the way that he does things compared to the Jedi Order. He gives him the choice. If he wants to, he'll follow. If he doesn't, that's fine, you know? And I think that's a really, really poignant choice. One thing I realized, and what we will continue to dig into, Kanan might be the best Jedi.
As a relationship, that's like one thing that's actually just rare. That's they're not allowed. You know, Anakin's the only other notable one to have a relationship, and we know how that went. And I'd argue Hera and Kanan's relationship is way better. We see the full training of a Padawan with him as well. He trains even Sabine a little bit with the Darksaber. The dude,
Well, and his relationship to the Force, like, the way we'll watch that evolve, I think there's something to be said for the fact that most of the best Jedi we've ever seen are Jedis who find themselves outside the Order. You know, Kanan Jarrus, Ahsoka Tano, Luke Skywalker, Rey. All of them end up being the greatest Jedi who have ever existed. And I mean, not objectively, you know, it's just kind of how I look at them. Their relationship to the Force, the way they carry themselves, it's how I feel about them. Ezra Bridger, you know, like all of them end up being, at least on screen, the coolest and most well-formed characters and people as Jedi.
Still. Like, they still have that human... You know, Jedi, they're doing it for the good intentions, but they can get a little robotic eventually in their logic and stuff sometimes. But But yeah, it's just nice not to have the institution. It's nice just to have you're doing it for those reasons because you believe in them yourself. You know, you don't need the order to tell you to do this because it's the right thing. It's just you're doing it. But
Sorry, I've got my gate closed, and my dog is more than strong enough to break it down if he so chooses. And I think they're scratching at it, so it shouldn't be long now. Yeah, no, I'm 100% of that mind. You know, I'm 100% that Kanan. By the end of the show, like on this rewatch, knowing a little bit more about Star Wars than the last time I watched it, and knowing a little bit more about the Force and a little bit more about these things, I think it'll become abundantly clear that Kanan is one of the greatest Jedi who have ever lived. And I think that's a really, really cool detail. But back on the Star Destroyer to close the episode, Callus informs the Grand Inquisitor of his findings in the field. A man who was quite adept with a lightsaber.
Gotta have the bad guys. Gotta have the conflict. You know, it's can't have
Yes, you
it
do.
all
Yes,
be
you do.
comfort. That's okay.
Stop it. No. No.
All good. All
Sorry
good.
about that. They're getting restless. I'm going to have to let them outside before long. But yeah, let's get this last little
okay.
trivia question.
Yeah, very.
In. What do you got? For me?
Just the first one. I wanted to start off just kind of easy, and I wanted it to be Rebels related. This is one you probably know. I'm assuming this one is going to be a
Okay.
1-for-1. You've read books and stuff like that, so that's probably the biggest thing. But it was just Chopper. His actual designation. And I guess there's one thing. I guess I want every number and letter to be exactly right. Even characters. Every character, I'd say, to be where
even
it
the
is
dash?
his designation.
Okay.
Okay,
C1-10.
I figured.
And it's
okay,
0,
I figured that was.
not
I
an
didn't
O.
know if maybe you would think it's an O, but not. Yeah, I was like, that was like I knew you would know it, but maybe you would switch or maybe fuck up the dash or the O or 0.
Maybe I'd fuck up something. Yeah. No, what's cool? I've always loved that because the dash is the bridge that makes the H.
That's kind of
in
why I
Chopper.
asked because I didn't know
That's
until I
hard.
saw it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always known him as Chopper. I've never just looked at his designation or whatever, and I'm like, why is it 1-1? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like Chalala, like the L, and I'm like, oh, it's an H, and so I was like, okay, but so I figured you'd know,
yeah.
but
Cool.
easy softball.
That is a good
Yeah.
way to. It's a good way to ease us in,
Yeah.
though. Yeah, love that. Love that. Okay, then with that, we will conclude our first episode of the Rebels Rewatch, and we will be back next week with episodes 3 and 4. We actually don't have a part 1 and part 2 or that next week. It's going to be 2 completely separate episodes, and those are Droids in Distress and Fight or Flight, which are pretty iconic for their quote unquote filler status. So I'm excited to get a couple fun ones, bank a couple fun ones next week. But with that, I'll do the plugs real quick. If you would, head to Twitter, follow @TheFulcrumPod. Keep up to date with anything we might be doing. You can catch us on Mondays and Fridays on the Penny Bloom podcast, where right now we are covering House of the Dragon. Next week, we are reaching Season 2, Episode 6 of House of the Dragon. We just crossed the halfway point earlier this week, and it's heating up. Boy, oh boy, is it fucking good. This Friday, we continue Cinema Surprise on the Penny Bloom podcast, where this week I selected the movie La Chimera. I selected La Chimera starring Josh O'Connor, and I'm very excited for that. I'm excited for you to hear it. You should definitely go check those out. But yeah, if you need updates on anything we might be doing, @TheFulcrumPod and @PennyBloomPod on Twitter, that is where you'll find us. But with that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much,
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And may the force be with you, always.